Senator Corker is calling into the program, so we want to talk with Senator Bob Corker. We saw him yesterday in Murfreesboro, got a chance to ask one question. Senator Corker, welcome to Nashville's Morning News.
Ralph, I'm in Middle Tennessee and got to see you yesterday in Murfreesboro. Just thought I'd check in with you.
I appreciate that. I did.
We need to talk about.
Sure, huh? I did have a follow-up to that question, but I thought it would be rude to the rest of the crowd for me to try to keep asking you questions. So when you said, "Would you like me to elaborate more?" I did have a follow-up, and after talking with the folks at Heritage Action, they insist that actually you can defund part of the government without threatening, other parts of the government. As you said, even though a lot of the Obamacare funding is entitlement funding, there's enough of it that it's not entitlement funding that it could indeed bring down Obamacare if Republicans had the backbone to stand there and do it.
Yeah. Look, this isn't about backbone, and look, this is a great fundraising mechanism for Heritage Action, and I'm sure they're enjoying it, but it just won't work.
Senator, but let's talk about it in a serious way instead of just accusing people of being political. There is a tactic here.
No, I'm not. I am talking about it in a serious way, and to say that you are going to shut down government over a very minor component of funding for the health care bill, it's just not a serious way of dealing with this. And the problem, Ralph, is when people say that, they basically, here over the last 2 years, we've reduced spending fairly significantly. We got another opportunity to get a bite at the apple this fall. And when people take themselves out of what I call rough and tumble tough work, and that is continuing to cut spending, when they make these statements or sign these letters, what they really are doing is taking themselves out of the tough fight to continue to reduce spending and solve our nation's fiscal issues. That's exactly what is happening. And most of the people that are in our caucus, the light has gone off, and they realize, hey, you're exactly right. I mean, we basically are taking ourselves out of the fight of our generation, and that is reducing spending in Washington. And we're doing so in a way that certainly sounds great, but it's very self-deceiving.
Do you think?
Look, I stand behind it 100%, and, I'm in the middle of that fight to reduce spending and know that if I were to sign some statement saying I'm not voting for a CR, yada, 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 then basically they've got to find some liberal Democrat to vote for a CR, which takes spending in an upward way instead of a downward way. So I'm very convicted on this, and really believe that again it's a defeating effort to go the other direction.
Do you think it was taking themselves out when the Republicans in the 90s did in fact hold spending back by forcing government shutdowns twice, and as a result, the spending under President Clinton was held to an average of about 2% a year, and we actually got our spending under control. And the Republican Party took a major political hit for that and a PR hit, but it got the job done. Why couldn't we do the same thing now if necessary?
Well, that's not what basically is being said. I would agree with you, what you just said. No, that's right. Let's focus in this CR debate, and certainly with the debt ceiling, let's focus on exactly what you just said, the big picture, and that is reducing spending. That's where our efforts need to be. So, look, we're on the same page if that's what you're saying. But sign some letter.
What the folks who signed that letter are saying, and you said yesterday in different parts of your speech that you said that our fiscal problems are an even bigger problem than Al-Qaeda, and you said, B, that Obamacare is a significant problem for us, and I assume you mean fiscal problem. So if Obamacare is a significant part of a fiscal problem that's a bigger problem than Al-Qaeda, if you have a chance, if there's any chance at all that you actually can get rid of Obamacare by cutting the legs out from under it, by defunding that part of it that's necessary in order for it to operate, I don't see why that's just grandstanding. I don't see why that, as a tactical plan, is not a workable plan if you're willing to follow through.
Well, I wish you had listened to Tom Coburn on the Senate floor explain why it's a flawed concept. I mean, Tom is one of our strongest fiscal conservatives, and he spent a long time on the Senate floor explaining how you can shut down government and you can defund a very small portion of what's happening with the health care bill, but most of it goes on. So it's self-defeating.
But if you defund that small portion, aren't you defunding things that will make it impossible for them to actually put Obamacare into place, and therefore it just kind of falls down like the Twin Towers did?
Well, Ralph, first of all, it's not going to happen because you have a president that is going to require what you're saying to occur with 67 votes. So in essence, he's going to veto it, and so you've got to have a two-thirds vote to make that happen. And so it's just a much more prudent course of action to continue the tough work that candidly I've been in the middle of over the last multiple years to continue to put downward pressure on spending. So look, I think people view this is a political effort. It's not what I would believe to be anything substantive. It's a political effort, and again, I think it's self-defeating. I think most people that have thought this through realize that that's the case. And look, the one thing about the Republican side is we are unified in opposition to the health care bill, and we have this strategical difference. There's a minority of our party, probably even smaller than the number of people who actually signed the letter, that are pursuing this course of action. But look, I think it's self-defeating. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I don't think it's the way to save our nation fiscally. And I'm going to take a different approach. I don't know how many times more I can vote to repeal health care. I'll do it every time. Fortunately, we got
but if you do it every time, if you do it every time and it doesn't happen, and you've got another weapon that you could use that might actually accomplish the same thing, I can't speak to people's motives. I don't know whether Ted Cruz is more political than you or whether you're more political than he. All I can do is look at the strategies that you're willing to use to try to accomplish the same thing and see whether those strategies might or might not work and whether they have worked in the past. And looking at it completely non-political, it still seems to me that this is a potentially workable strategy that ought not be just simply dismissed with accusations that it's political.
Well, I'm dismissing it, and I'm saying to you that I think it's self-defeating. Like most serious fiscal conservatives on our side of the aisle have said, I think it's not going anywhere, and I think, again, it's self-defeating. But look, the House has actually begun to take up some things that I think have some fruit. I mean, there are some narrow things. The employer mandate, as you know, was pulled back, I think, to focus on the individual mandate, to focus on things like the medical device tax. I think there are some surgical hits that are far more productive, and certainly, the House is looking at some of those things. But listen, thank you for coming yesterday. We disagree on this, and I don't think there's anything that's going to change my mind, and probably nothing that's going to change yours. But it's always great talking to you. It was good to see you yesterday, and I wish you and your listening audience very well. I'm enjoying being here in Middle Tennessee, and hope to see you again.